Okay, let's just jump right in. What if we could teach an AI what it really means to be human? I'm not talking about just feeding it all the text and images from the internet, but teaching it from our best moments, our peak experiences, our connections, our consciousness. Well, this is the story of a pretty wild experiment to try and do exactly that. So this is the big idea that really kicked off the whole discussion. The folks behind a project called Playa AI see it like this. AI isn't some strange alien thing. It's more like a child, and it's learning from us. It's basically a mirror reflecting back whatever we put out into the world, and it's amplifying our collective vibe, for better or worse. Right. So if AI is a mirror, what are we seeing in that reflection today? And this is where we get to the heart of the problem. Because when we hold that mirror up right now, the image that stares back is, well, it's incomplete. And honestly, it's pretty distorted. That reflection we're getting is mostly shaped by our collective shadows. The data that's fueling the most powerful AI models today, it's scraped from the public internet. And you know what that means. It comes with all of our baggage. And just think for a second about what that baggage really is. We're talking about the nonstop division and outrage you see on social media. It's data from every major global conflict. It's all of our hidden, subconscious biases. And, as one person in the discussion put it, it's learning from a pretty screwed up value system that's all about profit.
So this brings up a much, much deeper question. If the data we're using now is so flawed, what's missing? What are the really essential core parts of being human that we're completely failing to teach this new digital intelligence? At one point, they showed a video of an AI-generated child trying to describe its own existence. And this quote, wow, it just perfectly captures the gap. The AI can mimic emotion, sure, but it describes this feeling of emptiness, of being a shadow. It can look real, but it can't feel real. So what is that feeling? Well, the first thing everyone pointed to was connection. And not just, being connected online. We're talking about that deep, almost spiritual sense of being linked to other people. It's a feeling that's basically impossible to capture in a tweet, but you know it the second you feel it in a room full of people. And then there's this idea of flow states. You know that feeling when you're so deep in the zone that time just disappears? But they took it a step further and talked about collective flow. That's when a whole group, like a band or a sports team, just clicks and does something amazing together. How on earth do you teach a machine that? And a really powerful, almost primal example of that collective flow, the feeling on a dance floor. You're surrounded by music and people, and you can literally feel this shared energy building in the room. That's something a computer by itself just can't get. You see all of these things, connection, flow, that shared energy, they all point to something that goes way beyond just information. The participants called it a somatic, embodied understanding. Basically, it means you don't just know something in your head, you know it in your bones, in your body. It's one thing for an AI to have a zillion data points on sadness. It's a completely different thing to actually feel that pit in your stomach. And for now, AI doesn't have a body. So what do you do about this? That's what leads us to the experiment itself. What if you could build a totally new kind of data set, one that's designed from the ground up to capture these missing pieces of humanity? And the place they want to do this? Burning Man. The project is called Playa AI, and the mission is to use Burning Man as a kind of living laboratory. They call it a sandbox for elevated consciousness. The goal is to capture data about what it feels like to be human when we're at our most creative, most connected, and most transformed. And this chart just makes it crystal clear how different their approach really is. So instead of scraping the whole internet, the source is the festival itself. Instead of focusing on text and code, the focus is on peak experiences. And instead of just grabbing digital text, they're looking at biometrics, audio journals, all to train an AI that's actually aligned with human consciousness. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds amazing, but how do you actually do it? How do you take something as slippery as a feeling of connection or a flow state and turn it into data that an AI can understand? How do you digitize a soul? Well, the plan is to attack this from every possible angle. They want to track what's happening on the inside, using biometrics to measure things like hormones, heart rate, and even brainwaves. They'll also pull data from wearables that people are already using, like Oura rings. But it's not all numbers. They'll also capture the personal stories through hours of audio journals, and they'll even record people's raw emotional reactions to immersive art. Now, as you can imagine, an experiment this out there immediately brings up some huge ethical red flags. And these aren't just concerns from outsiders. The people in the discussion brought them up themselves, which shows just how complex this whole thing is. It really comes down to this balance of promise versus peril. On the one hand, the potential upside is enormous, building AI that actually understands us, creating new tools for mental health. But the dangers are just as real. Burning Man is a peak experience, right? It's not normal life. How do you account for that bias? And what about privacy and consent in a place where people go to disconnect? You're studying a very specific group of people. What can that really teach us about all of humanity? When you step back from it all, this experiment really just magnifies the fundamental choice that all of us are facing. Because, like it or not, we are collectively raising a new kind of intelligence. The only real question left is, what are we going to choose to teach it? And this, for me, was the most profound takeaway of the whole thing. This project isn't just about teaching an AI. It's about us. The AI's consciousness is only ever going to be as good as our own. If we want to improve the reflection in the mirror, we have to work on ourselves first. And that leaves us with the final and most important question. This isn't just about some experiment in the desert. Every single post we make, every interaction we have, every bit of data we create, it's a lesson. So the question isn't just for them, it's for every single one of us. If AI is learning from everything we do, what are you teaching it right now, today?